confusion on what we submitted versus what some of the comments are. And so I'm having to answer more questions that may be associated with that to try and avoid a holdover and see if we can get an approval today, so our tenant can move forward with their business that they plan to conduct. So it's all right. I would like to address each of these real quick with you. if that's all right.
Absolutely.
On the first one, a narrative, that was submitted, so I'm not sure if it fell out of the application or what. I'm happy to read it real quick. Basically, the narrative is that Renaissance Bank is the tenant currently at our building, and they use that for back-of-house office work. They don't do banking activities there. They do paperwork for loan, production, and mortgage, paperwork basically. And it's a temporary location for them while they try and find a permanent property mobile to develop for a future actual branch that will conduct full-service branch activities. But at this location, like I said, all they do now is back-of-house paperwork. They would like the ability to put one person in there. So if any of these people come in that are handling the mortgage paperwork or loan paperwork that they're turning in, they want to cash a check or something associated with that, that they could cash a check, take a deposit, or issue an official check. As far as the actual location, there's nothing that's going to change that has anything to do with the physical site or the appearance of the building. And the reason we have to apply for planning approval is that we're in B1 zoning, and B1 zoning allows office uses, but it allows bank uses with the approval of the planning commission. And the additional tasks that they want to have at this location, like cashing a check, taking a deposit, falls under a banking act instead of office work. But I just want to make it clear to everybody on the commission that there's no safety deposit boxes that are going to be located here. There's no bank vault. There's no ATM. There's no drive-through. The footprint of the building is not going to change. The exterior of the building will not change. There will be no changes in parking lot landscape, anything related to any major exterior of the property design, layout, or otherwise. The physical appearance of the building is not going to be altered. And this is the same approval that Iberia and some of the other banks on the same road had to get. They're in the same zoning. So, so the narrative is that. As far as 2, 3, and 4 regarding the site plan, we actually had approval of a site plan on this in 1993, I believe, which is noted in the notes on the application. And Bert actually sent me a copy of the site plan on file, and so we just prettied that up and then resubmitted it, and he said it was okay in email. And so I was a little surprised to see 2, 3, and 4 saying that they needed a scaled site plan because one is already approved and on file, and I guess it's not in that application, but we got it from the city because actually our filing system didn't have it. So here's a copy of it that came from Bert, so I'm happy to circulate that around for anybody up here that wants to look at it real quick, if anybody does. And that should address number 2, which is submission of a revised scaled site plan. And then as far as 3 and 4, nothing has changed from that submittal approval, and so there shouldn't be any issues related to 3 or 4 because it was approved and it would have been held to those standards when it was approved. As far as number 5, we didn't see anywhere where a plan was required to show appropriate buffers in the form of a wall or privacy fence related to B1 zoning, but I took some pictures. Bring down, there is a rear wall along the rear property line that serves as a buffer between residential. There's also trees in this one that serve as a buffer across the street. And then number 6 was plans to illustrate a dumpster that was in compliance with the enclosure, but there is no dumpster. It's just curbside pickup, and they said just put a note on the site plan. So I'll hand him these also. So that's basically what our application is, and I hope those may be something that we can look at today and avoid a holdover because our tenant, although temporary in nature in our building, would like to move forward with these limited retail service banking offerings to their customers. And so if you have any questions, I can answer.
Thank you, Mr. Dempsey. Anybody have any questions for? All right. Ms. Rose?
Yes, ma'am. Todd, I see the plan that was submitted for permitting back in 1993. What I don't see is that the plan that y'all did based on this doesn't show some of the trees that were on this that would have been required as part of the approval from 93 and required to remain in place. The parking layout's a little bit different. Instead of a 2-meeting holdover, the staff would be amenable to a 1-meeting holdover, if that's okay with you, so we can verify.
What's the time on that?
Today's the 1st, so the next meeting would be 2 weeks from today, the 15th.
Does it count for anything that I have an email from Bert says that site plan we submitted based on that is okay and acceptable? I mean, I'd really like to avoid it if possible. I can give you this.
Well,
So that,
Yeah,
we would
see-
have submitted that scaled one, but Bert said to pretty it up for the submittal, so that's why we took that. And that's-
Bert's actually reviewed the reports and approved the recommendation for holdover.
Oh, that's-
So that was after this email. So I would still stand by our request that it be held over, and
June 15th.
I think we can work with a 2-week holdover instead of the full 4-week.
Well, I don't want y'all to vote on it if you're gonna say no today, but I prefer a vote if I think you're all gonna say yes, and I can't get your answer, but, I mean, frankly, we didn't even know we were gonna have to ask for this, approval because it's so minuscule here, what's going in, but we do, so, with the fact that nothing changes anything on the site, or the building, literally anything changes,
It's-
except the person in there taking the check or something for deposit.
Bert, if we did want to look at voting on it today, I mean, are there a way to tag things in y'all's mentions, like the hatch that required for the handicap parking spot, the van loading,
Yes,
the
sir.
trees, to the, conditions to get them moving so they could open and start business?
Not ready for that.
Because it's not a lot of,
The only way I could see that, that I think staff would be really comfortable with it is if it were conditional that it complied with the approved site plan from 1993 and nothing has changed.
Pass it around.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a problem with that because literally nothing has changed. It's the same exact building, the same exact layout.
And Todd, I understand, it's just that what y'all did, maybe based on that, doesn't match that. There are things on there, on this, that are different. The parking layout's
This site
different.
plan we're looking at and this different than with that survey you're passing around?
Yes, sir. I mean, it's not a whole lot of difference, but the parking layout is different in that there are landscaped areas on the site that are shown now as parking places that don't comply with the parking requirements of the zoning ordinance. The first parking space on the north side, then the last one on the north, on the building side is way substandard if that's supposed to be a parking space.
I would defer to that one, that's an actual recorded one. That is done by a hourly cheap CAD drawing guy to get something to work for the submittal because that wasn't found at the time. So that should be based on that. So that is the actual what's on the ground in these hands right now.
And that's what we need to verify because
Core version of that up there.
that doesn't match, but that's what was submitted.
No, I understand. I'm just giving context to why that may be slightly different than that, and that's in actuality what's out there.
How many spaces?
Thank you, Mr. Dempsey. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Anyone here that is opposed to this application? Okay, we will move on to number 8. This has been recommended for a holdover to July 6th. 5803, 5809, and 5811 Old Shell Road. Is the applicant present? Mr. Byrd indicates that he is in agreement with the holdover. It is likely that that will be granted, that it will be held over until the July 6th meeting. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this today? Is there anyone opposed? Number 9, I am recused on number 9. Ms. Benson?
3101, 3105, and 3109 Commerce Court East, and 1101, 1105 I-65 Commerce Drive. Is the applicant present? Are you in agreement with staff recommendations? Okay, please come down.
Tom Clark, Collier Lake, I'm representing the owner. I had no qualms with the staff report, but I do want to clarify something. There was a little confusion on the subdivision portion of it. The application, the staff report rather, represents that our applicant will be taking into account the entire common area, when in fact we're only taking the southern portion of it. I spoke with the staff about it, and we're both agreed that this is not a problem. None of the staff comments, I don't believe, are really affected by that, so it was just a miscommunication on what you all are looking at.
Yeah, as Mr. Clark said, there's no problem with it. The plat submitted shows that the existing lot line is approximately here for the common area, and they're taking in this area. So the lot line is simply moving to approximately here. There was some confusion on staff part as to what was actually going on. It doesn't impact anything, so we're fine with allowing that lot line to be as was shown on the plat submitted.
Do we need to make any changes in the recommendations? Or state that in the decision?
You could do tentative approval of the plat as submitted.
One other thing I'd like to clarify is that the recommendations by the staff, we did like a subdivision and we have a PUD. On the subdivision, it recommends we can have one curb cut off of lot 14, which is the portion that we were discussing. On the PUD, it doesn't mention that. It only mentions 2 curb cuts onto Commerce Drive. We'd like to be clear that we would like the ability, although our drawing doesn't reflect showing curb cuts to the cul-de-sac, we'd like to make sure we have that ability to do things. Something that's desirable.
What was the curb cut you wanted to make sure was mentioned in the PUD?
From lot 14 to the cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Nah, it's just not clear and it's not.
Right. It's just a little ambiguous, so it's
I think we would suggest it be changed to read that each lot be limited to 1 curb cut to Commerce Court East, and keep the existing comment about the 2 curb cuts to Commerce Park Drive, or Commerce Drive. And obviously, the curb cuts to either street would be subject to traffic engineering approval of design, location, and size.
Comment for you, just a different subject matter. The stormwater retention pond that's part of the Commerce Park cul-de-sacs. I would just ask that for your client's sake, if you maybe revisit or make sure he's aware of documents and his maybe his ownership interest in those ponds. A lot of times we see when these subdivisions are kind of dormant for a while and they come online, that the new owners don't really understand that they have an ownership role in the maintenance of these retention ponds. So just okay. And it's possible, I'm not familiar with how this was designed, but it's possible that pond was designed for, retention for all the other lots. So you certainly may want to follow up with George and see if there's any calculations that support that pond being designed for, the build out of other lots in there.
I will be seeking Mr. Davis's help at this
Okay, very good.
That was what we were told, it was intended to do detention for the entire development.
Yeah, we should have the subdivision calculations and records in our office, and happy to supply them to you.
Are there any further questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here to speak for the application? Anyone to speak against the application? Moving to number 10.
3450 Gerby Road. Yep.
Bobby McBride, Row Engineering. We're okay with staff recommendations with the exception of the two items, 3 and 5. And number 5, traffic wants to limit the property to one curb cut to each lot. And in item 3, it says lots 1 and 2 are denied direct access to Gerby Road, limited to one curb cut each to the private drive on lot 3. And lot 3 limited to one curb cut to Gerby Road and denied access to Hillcrest. We're okay with all that with the exception of the limiting the lots 1 and 2 just to the private drive. We feel that they need a curb cut out to Gerby Road. It wouldn't cause much of a problem at this point under one ownership. If those two lots were to sell, then it could cause some problems. I think that it would be more beneficial to those lots to have their own curb cut out to the public right-of-way. And we'd like to ask that that be changed if we could, please.
Does staff have any input on that? I know we don't have traffic engineering here specifically, but I know there was some mention in the report about, some of the existing traffic on Gerby Road.
Well, we support traffic engineering that they be limited to access to the private road. There are numerous other developments in the city that have a private road and lots that are out parcels that front on the main street, the major street, who are denied access to that major street because that's part of our traffic management plan. So we support traffic engineering. I wish one of them were here to further explain it, but we support their recommendation.
I would like to say that I wholeheartedly support it as well, because there's a traffic light at Gerby and Hillcrest, just right up the site. If there are 2 curb cuts, or 3 altogether, without it, some kind of lane that would move people over to it. Gerby is basically a very busy street, but unimproved with swell drainage, and doesn't have adequate lighting. It's gets a lot of use, and it's not in good condition. And I don't see it getting in good condition anytime really in the future. It'd be nice, but the idea groups have met residents in nearby. This really rang my phone when all of the earth was moved on the site. It's completely denuded. I looked at the picture and I wanted to cry. What it used to look like, it's just completely been carved out, ready for development. But I think the traffic management there across from a large middle school would be wise to leave it to the one cut, and it would serve everybody well, actually make those other 2 lots, I don't know about markability because they have a curb cut, because if you have accidents there, people don't want to go. So it's a lot safer to do it off of the one drive.
Mr. McBride, do you have any further comments?
Well, I understand. I completely understand. We have to ask. We'd rather have one for each lot, but I do understand. I do completely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of number 10? Is there anyone here to speak against this application? Number 11 is the west side of Dolphin Island Parkway, extending 120 feet plus or minus east of Slough Creek, Dolphin Creek Estates. The applicant has indicated he is in agreement with the recommendations. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of it? Come on down. Yes, ma'am. We'd love to hear you. And you take your time and be careful. Hold on to that rail.
We're not going anywhere.
My name is Thelma Thrash. I don't need a mic because I taught school, so I'm not learning. My name is Thelma Thrash, and my address is 2113 Highland Court. And I have not read this much since I retired from teaching school. Had I received this before today, then maybe I would understand it. I talked with Mr. Daniel Henderson, I think, and he wanted to speak to some of the neighbors, and I have some neighbors with me, but he never did get back. I would like to know exactly what is going on. If building something or moving something is going to cause more flooding than what we have on our street, then I'm against it. Can you explain exactly to me what he wants to do or what he's trying to do, move buildings or put something there? We at a loss, all of us. Can I get an explanation?
You can. Mr. McBride? This is the engineering company that has designed this, Ms. Bryson, he's going to explain.
Not exactly sure in detail what the client has in store for the property, but I do know he has plans to clean all these buildings up, make them nice again, clean the neighborhood up, and make them available to the public. And we're going to be cleaning up some parcels there, making the subdivision, making it into lots. And I think he, from what I can tell, I know he's been talking to the city, and I think he has a good plan. I don't know in detail what he plans to do, but I think it's going to be a huge improvement over what's there now. It's going to bring people back in and put people back in these houses, do some remodeling, cleaning up, landscaping, things of that nature. So it's going to be much of an improvement over what's there now.
So this is going to take about how many years?
Not sure. I'm sure as quickly as he can do it, as quickly as he can make it happen.
Is that the black guy that I talked to?
Mr. Henderson, yes, ma'am.
I have a question of engineering and maybe staff, but I mean, if this is already just curious, it's a subdivision with existing houses, so if they go in there and build new houses, or they're apartments, it says apartments and then, so.
It's actually I would say a 1940s duplex apartment
Right.
development, much like some of the older ones that are still around, Pathways and some of the others similar to that. They are taking those duplex buildings, converting them to single-family residential, and then upgrading them to more current standards. So it's reducing the number of residents within the development and improving the overall development by improving the structures. They're going to be doing some work on the rest of the site to help with, I think, some drainage issues. I'm not sure what all they're going to be doing to the streets. I know some of those need some work. So,
But like to answer her question, they really don't have to, they want to improve the drainage for their own benefit, but they're not required to put in new retention if these existing buildings are there.
no, sir.
Right.
No, sir, they're not required to do anything like that. There are a couple of places where the duplexes have been demolished, where they will at some point come back and build a single-family residence on maybe not exactly that former footprint, but at least in that general vicinity of the structure that was demolished. So it's the biggest change is that it's going from duplexes to single-family dwellings.
And there doesn't have to be another, we're doing the subdivision and a plan unit development, but the plan unit development that we're shown is strictly how the buildings are laid out now. If there was to be a design change.
If they
it
were
would
to
have
come back and decide, like this lower right-hand quadrant, if they were to decide to raise those buildings and come back and put them in a different location, some other type of units, they would have to come back to the commission.
But if they stay on the footprint, then they can make them into the single family.
Yes,
There's
ma'am.
enough green space and stuff.
So what effect does that have on Highland Court?
Really not anything. We are required by law to send notices to the property owners within 300 feet. I don't see that it necessarily will have an impact on the residents of Highland Court. You'll be driving through a development with fewer residents than what you had been previously when it was fully occupied.
Yeah, because apartments are gonna become homes, you said, single-family homes.
Single family, yes, ma'am. And they've actually already, this area back here, they've already converted some of these to single-family dwellings.
They look good, I've been back there. The ones that he has already started with,
Yes, ma'am.
and they do have residents in them already. What I think he saying he was gonna try to do, which is going to be totally impossible, because I can remember 20 years ago, my late husband tried, he wants to open up a way for Dolphin, so we can get directly from Dolphin Parkway. But that's impossible, because the area that he's going to have to make that Highland Court going straight to Dolphin Parkway, that's a vacant lot in the hands of, is it Weed and Feed or Weed and Seed? And on the other side, it's owned by Alabama Power.
So there's an easement.
So will he run into any of those, either of those lots, the one Alabama Power lots, or the Weed and Feed or Weed and Seed or whatever?
We've not been presented with any of that, so I can't answer
You'd
that
have to roll
question.
that out again to bring it back to the.
Right, he would have to
commission.
come back before the
That would be,
commission.
get a chance to look at that. But right now, you go in through that Woodland Drive, and that's how you get to your subdivision?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, it's probably gonna look a lot better if you're looking at all those vacants right now. So it'll be more livable, better conditions. But that's your egress. But he's thinking, he'd like to make sure that you came out to, so that you didn't have to go through his development.
Yeah, he wants to come on street
So-
directly to Dolphin Park.
For Highland.
But it didn't happen 20 years ago, and I
Yeah.
can't see it happening now.
He would have to coordinate with that landowner, buy the property, come back to us, and, I mean, it would be a pretty big undertaking for him to
And then
make that
we're
connection.
looking at, with
Is that-
too much renovation down there, it's gonna cause flooding, and we have terrible
That's-
floodings on our street.
Oh,
I might add that
Yeah.
there is drainage already in place there. There are inlets and drainage, and I believe it goes out to the creek there on the west side. So, the drainage is already in place there to handle stormwater.
If you can guarantee us that we won't, I know you can't guarantee that we won't have any more flooding, I go along with anything that you wanna do, but when it comes to that, and if you can get Alabama Power to clean up that line, I go along with anything you wanna do, but other than that, I am opposed to anything that you wanna do that's gonna give me a headache.
I don't think we'll do that.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, and I'll explain that to my neighbors, because they depend on me to talk for them. So, anyway, we don't wanna cause anybody any problem, we wanna get along and we wanna make it good for everyone. And I'm for doing that, but I don't want my husband to have to pick me up and walk me out in all that water.
Thank you, Ms. Bryson.
Okay, thank you all
Mr.
so much.
McBride.
thank you. That's it.
Okay, we are now going to move into our deliberation phase. Number 1, the Brewer Road subdivision.
Move for approval, subject to staff recommendations.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 2,
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendation?
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 3, 850 West I-65 Road has been recommended for a holdover. I'll make that motion.
Second. What's the holdover date? What was it for July 6th? So, a month.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 4, Frenchman's Hollow subdivision.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Number 5, Summer Glen subdivision.
Move to approve based on staff recommendations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Number 6, 10351 Tanner Williams Road.
Move for approval, subject to staff recommendation.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 7, Realty Holdings has been recommended for a 1-meeting holdover to June 15th.
I have a question. If I make a motion to approve subject to the site plan on file, is there any other conditions that you need to,
Should not be.
and you okay with that? Provided, I mean, I actually used to lease in that, lease space in there, I mean, it hadn't changed from that survey.
It's up to the commission.
I'll make a motion to approve subject to the site plan that was on file and previously approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 8 has been recommended for a holdover to July 6th.
Move to hold over to July 6th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I just ask a question of staff, so when it comes back? We just rezoned this not too long, a portion of it. And it was from, I think, R2 to B2, and it was gonna be like a small plaza. Could not have a restaurant. Now they want the restaurant, so they've secured more land site. Do we know if it's a drive-through? How does that work?
They do not reference a drive-through in the application. However, looking at the site plan, it's
Looks like-
obvious that they do are proposing a drive-through. This is the lane to get to the drive-through window, which, based on the drawing, I'm assuming here, the window would be right in this area. This appears to be an order station, but again, their site plan does not denote it as such. So, those are things that we hope will be labeled when they come back with the corrected plan and subdivision to include these lots that they are taking this from.
It's the same owners that own those 2 apartment buildings that sit right behind this.
I didn't check the ownership of the apartment buildings.
I think so. Yeah. And where's the dump, you said they needed to show a dumpster, didn't they? Or did they show one?
These first things right here, look like dumpsters right here in the bottom site plan, right here.
That's a dumpster.
3 dumpsters at the bottom,
Right here.
south,
okay.
south, whatever.
Could have fooled me. They don't have to label anything? Okay.
Again, that's another thing.
No, and
that-
I like the fact that it does not have a curb cut to Old Shell. But I hope they keep that.
I don't think that planning staff or traffic engineering would approve a curb
Yeah.
cut to Old Shell.
Exactly. Okay, thank you, thanks.
I believe, Ms. Rich, you made a motion for that holdover. Was there a second?
That's
Yeah,
second.
Mr. Dallas had
Yeah,
seconded.
we had that, but we didn't discuss.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Number 9, Mrs. Lathan is recused. We're taking the subdivision and the PUD as 1 unit. Is there a motion?
Does staff have the revised comments? You got those noted?
Yes, sir. Basically, on the subdivision, it's that the plat be granted tentative approval as was submitted, so the lot line issues are taken care of. And then on the planned unit development, it would be 1 curb cut to Commerce Court East for each lot, and then the 2 curb cuts to Commerce Drive for Lot 15.
Applicant, good with that? I'll make that motion.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. It passes.
Move for approval subject to the staff's recommendations.
Second.
Is there any discussion on that?
I have a question of the staff. B1 requires landscaping, and when you
Yes,
say to make all codes, because right now it literally is just a dirt pit. So,
Yes, ma'am. B1 R3 requires landscaping in compliance.
because I know it's a lot of single family, but they're sitting in the B1, so I didn't know how you look at that, but, okay, appreciate that. All right, just curious about that. And I want to thank the applicant and the representative that was here, and also Mr. Pesnell, who worked with nearby residents. We had numerous meetings, and looking at his plans, and I appreciated him waiting for this meeting to have his PUD in with his subdivision and rezoning. So I want to publicly and have that for the record, because it really helped a lot. So that was a very hot button, that project.
Okay.
Need a motion?
Would you like to,
We had a motion and a second, but I don't think we voted yet.
Did not vote. Motion and second, no vote.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 11, which is Dolphin Creek Estates subdivision.
Move to approve based on staff recommendations.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Olson, just to be clear on the record, number 10, which was the 3450 Kirby Road, was Ms. Rich's motion that we voted just a moment ago. I didn't call it. I just want to make sure we had separated it from number 9.
Okay, I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you very much. Is there any further business?
I just had a quick question, and it, not necessarily that it has to be answered today, but I just wanted to, I guess, ask the staff about, to, I guess, look into any, like CAPSO training for the planning commission, just sometime in the future. Just wanted to kind of get that back on the radar. I know that y'all mentioned it before, so just wanted to.
It's on our radar. We had been trying to work with Ms. Gatlin, who runs the program for UNA, about having a special group of classes here in Mobile for the commission and then open it up also to the public. We've not been able to work that out yet, but we do know that they are planning some classes in this area. Gulf Shores, I think, is the next group of classes, and that's next month. And then there are some classes coming up in the fall. We don't have exact dates or location yet, but we're keeping an eye out, and we'll keep you up to date.
Thank you.
Any further business?
No, ma'am.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.